Welcome to Everyday Linux User. In today's video I am going to compare an Arch derivative called Endeavour with the main Arch Linux distro and show you what you can expect from each of them. By the end of this video hopefully it will be clear which is the most obvious choice for new users and the everyday Linux user. Now there's a common joke in the Linux community which goes something like this: how can you tell if someone uses Arch Linux? Don't worry, they will tell you. It's almost a rite of passage to be considered an expert Linux user. You must have installed Arch and use it on a daily basis. This is of course nonsense. I don't need to have resoldered chips to a motherboard to know how to use a computer. Is there really any more skill in spending 8 hours setting up your PC to do the same thing a simple Linux Mint install can achieve in 15 to 20 minutes? Now this isn't an Arch bashing video. Arch is very popular and this stems from the fact it is incredibly bleeding edge and everything is configurable. However, you do have to learn how to read manuals and the community isn't very forgiving. For instance, I was looking up an article about the Mate desktop and getting iCandy to work, and a guy had asked a similar question to one I was thinking. It's almost like Google sent me to the right place. And the first reply to his question was, ditch the piece of shit guide you are following on YouTube and read this manual instead. And when I clicked on the manual, it was very technical in nature. So what I'm going to show you now is an Arch install I made during the week. Now initially I tried the automated installer but it failed. I have tried this in the past and it has worked, and having watched videos by the Linux Mensch, who spends far more time in Arch based distros than I do, this isn't an uncommon situation. I ended up installing Arch manually and these are the fruits of my labour. I tried to make the desktop work exactly as my Endeavour OS setup that I showed last week, with all the Mate iCandy installed and desktop applications. As you can see, from the outset it looks okay and things seem to work quite well. Except, where are my wobbly windows? Okay, so not everyone wants iCandy, but I had this working on the previous boot and now it's not. To fix it, I can temporarily open a terminal and reset Compiz, and it will work. All that aside, I have all the apps installed such as Chrome, Evolution, GIMP, Kdenlive, Simple Screen Recorder, LibreOffice, VLC, Rhythmbox, etc. Hardware wise, I have Wi-Fi working, and it didn't take much effort, but that is about it. I have installed Bluetooth, but it isn't yet working with my headphones. I suspect I am missing audio drivers, and I have a video showing how to fix Bluetooth, so I can follow that and get that working later. And finally, I haven't got printing going yet. To be honest, I haven't even tried. The time taken to get to this stage is many hours, and I mean many hours. I'm now going to scroll through some of the commands I've run just to get to this point, and they are quite extensive. Right, now let's move on to Endeavour. Here is my Endeavour desktop, and as you can see the iCandy is working just fine, and I don't need to restart Compiz or anything like that. My Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, printing is all set up and all my apps are installed. The installer for EndeavourOS is easy to follow, much easier than Arch, and most things work as soon as you reboot. Okay, so you do have to install the applications you wish to use, but you can do that using Pacman or Yay in the same way you would with Arch. Getting the iCandy set up is straightforward, and I showed you that in a previous video, which I've linked in the description. For anyone who hasn't used Arch-based distros before, I encourage you to use Endeavour in the first instance. You will get into the habit of using the command line to install software using Pacman and Yay, but you don't have quite as steep a learning curve as trying to get Arch running in the first place. Now I could have listed Manjaro here instead, but in Arch circles Manjaro is frowned upon because they hold back packages in their own repositories. That being said, Manjaro is far easier to use than either Endeavour or Arch. What you decide to use all depends on your motivation. If you want really easy to use, go for Manjaro. If you want to try using Arch but don't want to get frustrated quickly, then try Endeavour. But if you are all in for the learning experience, use Arch. If you're going to try Arch, either have a dedicated virtual machine or a computer that you aren't planning to do important stuff on in the meantime, whilst you are getting it set up, as you are likely to swing for the fences quite a few times but struggle to hit first base. Now if you really want to make life easier for yourself, then there's nothing in this world that forces you to use an Arch based distro. You aren't a lesser person for not using it, in the same way you aren't less of a person for not trying Gentoo or Slackware. Personally, I still prefer Debian based distros, and I would always recommend Easy, which is why I promote Linux Mint, Pop, Ubuntu, Zorin and distros like that. And that is the end of the video. Thank you for watching. If you liked it, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment below, and I'll see you next time on Everyday Linux User.